And joining me now is Liberal strategist Graham Milner. Graham, thanks very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
We're in the last few days of this campaign. What do you think we will see from the parties at this point?
Well, you're certainly going to see the parties pick up the pace. You saw the number of whistle stops that have increased over the last 48 hours, making quick, decisive speeches in front of large crowds in smaller communities and ones that are really important to the swing ridings that are going to decide this election up and down southwestern Ontario, through Vancouver Island, and we even saw yesterday in places like Calgary.
And does that work? Does that have an impact and motivate the people to get out?
Right now, everything's about motivation, as you say. Like it's about making sure that everyone that has been identified as a supporter of one party or another, that the parties are doing everything possible to get them to the ballot box on Monday, if they haven't already. You know, it was just a week ago that the platforms were released, and over the last 4 or 5 days, those parties will have been looking to garner about 1,500 to 3,000 contacts a day at each of the local ridings, just to identify those last few swing votes. And so, yeah, as you say, motivation is the name of the game for the next 48 hours to get them to the ballot box.
Now, you mentioned the platforms. Have they had an impact, you think, on the polls? We've seen the Liberals, the gap close between the Liberals and the Conservatives.
Look, I think that what we look at when we look at the platforms is that final few undecided voters. You know, over the last week, Nick Nanos's data has shown that those undecided voters, those people who are holding on to their decision right to the final moments, have started to make that decision. So that number has gone down, and you've seen the polls tighten a bit. I think what the platforms did show, especially to voters who may be considering one of the two main parties, was exactly what they had to offer for their specific constituencies. You know, we saw some more niche policies announced than had been announced by the leader previous to that, both in the Liberal and the Conservative platform.
And with the NDP and the Bloc Québécois, they're kind of battling it out for third. Could they end up being kingmakers, do you think, or what kind of a role will they play? They could. I know the NDP could be wiped. There's talk of the NDP possibly being wiped out even.
Look, at those parties, like the two main parties, are going to be looking to get their final votes. You know, I heard Mr. Singh yesterday speaking about his confidence in getting the votes out and having more NDP MPs elected. I don't think that the polls necessarily show that. You know, Mr. Blanchet today, you played a clip just before I jumped on here about some controversial comments. You know, it is no coincidence that he's making those consequential comments in the last 72 hours before an election. Certainly, he's looking to garner some attention, maybe pull together some constituencies in more rural parts of Quebec, where he may feel that his MPs or his candidates are in danger of losing to Liberal or Conservative candidates.
Okay. Graham, thank you as always for your insight. Appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me on. Have a great day.
Cheers. Graham Milner is a Liberal strategist.